People often ask a question, oh, what sort of architects are you? Are you like traditional, do you work on old buildings, or are you contemporary architects? And I think it's much more subtle than that, in that we work in a beautiful landscape, in amongst lots of wonderful heritage and old buildings and that sort of thing. And so kind of have an appreciation and love for that. But lots of us have also worked and studied all around the world. You've kind of plundered architectural ideas and how they relate to culture, and then you bring them back and test them, and so you get this kind of sense of innovation meeting an existing setting, and it's then trying to work out how those things come together, bringing in all sorts of other great things that you can get from elsewhere that doesn't just have to totally copy some historical vernacular.
So we're really experienced at working with listed buildings and in a historic context. A couple of us have done the RIBA conservation course, which was really fascinating and gives us great insight. And we love working with old buildings, but I think where it gets really exciting is where you combine that with a contemporary feel. And I think that can work really well with a house, using kind of traditional materials with a kind of contemporary space. But I think it also works really well with other types of buildings, like a kind of a hotel or wedding venue, where you might have kind of more cosy, intimate areas that might be related more to the kind of traditional parts of the architecture, and then much more open, light, airy contemporary spaces.
It's a case of bringing what change we can and what innovation we can, so that we can live better and more exciting buildings, whilst at the same time designing so that something just looks right.
I think many of the homes that we have existing in the UK don't necessarily make the best use of space. They're often quite disconnected from the outdoors, and so sort of creatively reimagining some of these spaces can really make quite a big difference.
At Millar Howard, I think it's the design approach we take. We take a brief, and we don't just go for that one option. Generally, clients will have something in their mind, what they're wanting or what they think is going to be the best option when they come to us. But what we like to do is challenge that brief. I'll give them other options, things that they haven't thought about, something different, which may give them a better solution to that problem.
As you move on later in the design process, I think visualization is very important, and the use of technology to focus on design and also the details helps bring the ideas to life.
I think really great architecture, or buildings that work really well, you need to have a very engaged process.
Lots of clients come to us and they want to enjoy the process and the experience. If you have to get to the end of a job and you've got a beautiful building, but it's been a really painful process to have to go through, that's not what people want.
Some of the most successful projects are ones where it's really enriched by the client's story, how they use a space or how they would like to use a space, what kind of lifestyle they would like to imagine. And that can be integrated in so many different ways.
So whether that's a home, or whether that's a school library, or whether that's a chapel space or something like that, you've got to really understand what matters to those people. And so that's iterative right the way through the design process, from the first sketches and ideas through to when the building's finally done.
The detail gives it that character, that quality of the build. I mean, you could build something very generic, but I think it's when you get into the detail, how you actually put those materials together, that just gives it that extra wow factor at the end of the day.
And actually then you also need to see what's happening outside. So often you see a drawing of a house or a building that's just floating in a sea of white paper. You need to know what's happening all the way around it to know if it's working or not, because you can't detach a house from its landscape or any building from its context.
Working in a firm that's in a rural environment, I find that we put more particular attention between the connection of architecture and nature.
Working in the local vernacular with the materials helps the building sort of sit comfortably in its location, and we try to do that wherever we're working. So in the Cotswolds it might well be limestone, timber. What's typically available in those areas and sits well amongst the character of the place.
Don't think you need to work it all out yourself, because I think a lot of people don't want to engage in a conversation. They think they need to know exactly what they want and have sorted everything out. And exploring a building project is a huge, huge thing.
I think it's just worth picking up the phone and having a conversation and just saying, do I get on with this person? Do I want to work with this person for the next year or 2 years? And am I going to trust this person? And want them to take me on the journey through to the end of the project. And I think that's what you really have to consider.
Well, I think there's a real thrill to just getting something right. And it takes time and it takes effort on everyone's part, but I think we work really hard together with our clients to get that feeling where you just know that you've arrived at the right space.